Well, hey everybody, Kerry Allen here, and welcome to Photography Schoolhouse. Tonight we're talking about Valentine boudoir businesses. This is part three. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, and this is kind of an odd presentation. These are three webinars and three live broadcasts from the studio. So this is the third of the webinars, third and last of the webinars, and you have we've already had the first live broadcast from the studio, and I'll give you some dates coming up for the next two. And if you've missed the earlier sessions, I'll show you how you can get to them. So that's me. I'm Kerry Allen. I'm the chief organizer, I guess, of Photography Schoolhouse. Geez, bottle washer, floor sweeper, pretty much everything, I guess. And can't get the slides to advance properly. So this presentation is based on those people who are just getting into boudoir photography and wanting to turn it into a business and make some money at it. Even though you may already have a boudoir photography business, this could still be of value. There's some, I think, very worthwhile lessons even for established boudoir photographers. But the presumption is made that you're starting out. So we're going to show you, or we have shown you already, how to make simple sets in your home and studio, and both using available light and studio flash, how to start a marketing campaign, bring customers in the door, learning posing. We're going to talk about that tonight, what products boudoir clients want to buy and how to sell. Sorry, I heard footsteps. Just the studio cat. So I'm going to talk about those items tonight. So 6 parts, January 19th tonight, developing a shooting style, posing, and product design. That's the last of the webinars. The next 2 live boudoir shoots from the studio, January 24th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then January 31st, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to sign up and register for those. Let me go back for a second. So if you have missed the previous recordings, part 1 and like the January 5th and January 12th presentation and part 1 of the live boudoir shoot, you can see those currently at www.pshtalk.com. Now that is our member site. You have to be either a gold member or a bronze member. Gold members are a paid membership, and we'd love to have you as a gold. But if you want to become a bronze member, which is free, just go to photographyschoolhouse.com, go to memberships, go down to bronze membership, and fill this, click on the link, fill this out, and it's free. Then you're in, and you'll be able to see the other recordings at pshtalk.com. So kind of philosophical talk. We mentioned this in the other 2 sections as well. Selling boudoir today is, well, selling photography today is tough. And basically in this area, in this profession, and probably in most other professions today, people will only pay for work that they can't do themselves. Particularly now that cell phone photography has become so popular, and the cell phone phones, our cameras, I mean, have become so ridiculously good. So our goal is to exceed their expectations. We need to do something they just can't do on their own. And if we can't aspire to that, if we can't achieve that, then, or don't have a desire to achieve it, then basically this may not be the thing for you. We really do need to exceed the customer's abilities and their expectations. We need to kind of wow them with our photography and everything else, service particularly. So tonight we wanted to talk about, first of all, a shooting style. Now there are, I basically put them into two categories. There's kind of the soft look of boudoir photography and then the sexy look. So the soft look, you're going to find this sort of content available everywhere. You see it all across the web. Just do a Google search on boudoir photography and click on samples. You'll see tons of this very nice, very soft kind of photography, and there's certainly a market for that. And that can be done. I'm going to talk more about where it's done, like studio, house, hotel room, or whatever, but can be done on location, can be available light, studio light, whatever. But then there's the kind of sexier look, where a little bit more skin is showing. This is entirely up to the client. We leave it up to them whether they want to go this direction or not. And many do. Many are just a little bit shy to go there, but in reality, that's what they'd really like. So you got to make the customer feel comfortable in exploring kind of what they want to achieve. And the way we do this, as we've talked before, is we show sample pictures before we start the session. We've got a whole stack of 4x6 images. We go through them. They pick the ones they like, and then this gives me an idea of where they really want to go. They want a softer, kind of a harsher, racier, sexier look. So I want to talk a little bit about locations, or just kind of review that, because it's important to our shooting style right now. Basically, room sets are backdrops. If you're in a studio, particularly if your studio doesn't have windows, and most of my studios in my life didn't have windows, so we're shooting under artificial lights, and we're shooting typically on a studio backdrop. The image on the right here is just a painted backdrop, that staircase. And I, at that point in time, had dozens and dozens of backdrops. But I started really developing a taste for actual room sets. The image on the left is an actual living room. She's lying on the sofa, that's the carpet, that's the hardwood floor. Big, beautiful panel of windows right off, coming from our left, as you can see the direction of the light, and also coming from behind us. There was windows on two sides of the room. So really, this wasn't anything more than maybe the odd reflector to kick in a little bit of fill, but I think this image on the left was not even that. It was just a natural room light. And I've more and more, to be honest, I'm leaning in that direction. I've kind of been through the studio backdrop era, and while I'll still do it from time to time, I'm kind of done with it. I want to move on to real rooms, real kind of the reality. Here's some more images taken on backdrops. This was just one called Iron Oxides from Silver Lake. It was a great drop for everything from families, boudoirs, general purpose drop you could use for just about anything. And then we had a couple of specialty ones. The one on the left is actually just a white wall that we let go gray. And then the one on the right, that I think it's called the mark pattern. A number of companies have this kind of pattern. This one, again, was from Silver Lake. Just a 5x7 drop pinned to that same wall that you saw in the left-hand picture. And added some dramatic lighting, and it has been and remains a very popular kind of shot that we do. Other backdrops, the image on the left is not only a backdrop, but it's a plexiglass window with water in front. So we've got a foreground and a background. And then just another variety on the right-hand side. That was another, just a I think it was called Pink Apples or something. Again, very, very pleasant drop to work with. It's all in the way that you light these things. But room sets, more and more is where I'm going. All three of these pictures and a couple more coming up are all done in actual rooms. So you can see the girl in the white outfit. That's just two different poses of the same area. She's, in fact, that's the same room you saw a couple of slides ago. Those are the windows. Now, they didn't have any window coverings. We had that piece of material with us. We wanted to soften the light coming in. We just draped the window with that material, and it worked perfectly. The one in the middle, it's obviously been toned. That's just another room set. Those are patio doors that she's standing in front of. In fact, if you look carefully at the doorknob on the patio doors at the bottom right-hand corner, you see my keys are still in it. But nonetheless, just real rooms add so much more dimension, I think, to the pictures than a classical backdrop. The two images, center and right, are a hotel room. And one on the left is a little bit more interesting. That was actually the patio that we were shooting on, and we had built this set. My partner and I built this set. They're all artificial plants. You can see just beside her head on the our left-hand side, see a little bit of warm wood tone. That was a barrel we bought from, I guess it was probably Home Depot garden department, had a bunch of them. We picked one up. We had to stain it and finish it and put it back in shape again. That's all artificial. It is outdoors on the patio, but there's nothing real about that set. We wanted something that looked like real outdoors, that we could shoot with some degree of privacy. Another set on room sets. So this again is just a set of patio doors draped by some sheer fabric. And what I've been playing with, this is kind of my latest realm of things I like to experiment with, is mixing color balances. So the light coming in through the window, as you can see, this is the left-hand side. You can see that it's a bright sunny day because you can see the direct streaks of sunlight even through the shears spilling onto her face and shoulders and whatnot. So that's kind of daylight color balance. And in the background, we have the room with a lamp on in the corner that's emitting a very warm tungsten colored lamp. Light, I mean. So I like mixing color balances like this. That all three of those shots were taken in the same location, same shears, a little bit of toning on the middle one, but just beautiful light to work with. You can see the lamp on the right-hand picture, and it's just amazing how much work we can get just working right in front of those patio doors. If I didn't have patio doors, if there was a window there, as long as the window is big enough, then you'd accomplish the same thing. So one of the things you may or may not be worried about, as the slide says, we have both male and female boudoir photographers, and there's probably right now female boudoir photographers outnumber males 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 even. So I was always worried, in today's marketplace, even as a male boudoir photographer, am I going to run into some problems? And I don't think I have. You never really know for sure because people don't phone me up and say, hey, I'm not booking you because you're a guy. So you have to kind of measure it by the number of people who phone you up, talk to you, ask questions, and then don't book. So some of them maybe because it's a male photographer. But you know what? The proportions are so small, it's just not even worry about it. If you're a female boudoir photographer, awesome, great. You got everything going for you. If you're a male, don't worry about it. You might lose a little bit of business, but really there's enough out there. And ironically, because I ask almost every customer I deal with, because I've got a funny name, Carrie. They don't talk to me or meet me. They have no idea if I'm male or female. And so I always ask them when they come in, because sometimes we don't really talk on the phone. We're just texting back and forth. I'm answering questions, but they still don't have any clue as to gender. So they come in, they do the shoot, and at the end they say, well, were you surprised to see a male photographer? And I said, no. In fact, we knew you were a male photographer. You know, we saw your picture on the website, and we specifically wanted a male photographer. And why would they say something like that? Why would they want a male photographer? It's not that they're exhibitionists. It's that males and females shoot differently. And they prefer, some of them prefer the style that most male photographers would shoot. Female photographer, this pretty much just says what I already talked about. Now, as a male photographer, I'll just make this point. It's kind of self-obvious. I always shoot with at least one female assistant in the room at all times, and occasionally from time to time too. I never, if they have to make a change or they're getting into a difficult position, I make a big deal. I make a joke out of hiding. I'll cover my eyes and my assistant will hide them behind a reflector or something so they get a little bit of privacy to change an outfit or whatever they need to do, although we do have a change room. So, you know, we give them all of the sense of security, and it's a fun session, and nobody ever feels that they're being impinged on. So we create a female-friendly environment. Posing, it's kind of hard to get into in a demonstration like this. This is why we're doing the 3 live broadcasts from the studio. We'll get more into the posing. But I will mention this. We do offer a boudoir posing and idea guide. It's a whole bunch of pages like this with lots of information on lighting diagrams, posing ideas. I forget exactly how many there are. Not only are these pages, but there's a whole bunch of what we call field cards. So little 4x6s you can print up and keep in your studio or a camera bag or something to help you remember poses as you go into a session. We even went a step further with this kit. We put it on iPhone cards or smartphone cards. So you can put them on your phone. If you want to check, if you're stuck for a pose, you can quickly go to your phone. The customer won't even realize, and you just flip through it and kind of remind you of the poses. I've always worked with posing guides, even to this day, and I've been doing this for 40 years now, or pretty much 40 years, I guess. I still forget some poses, and I get to the end of the session, I say, oh, darn, I meant to do that pose and I forgot. So I usually have a posing guide nearby that I can check just so I don't forget. You know, you get busy, you're talking to somebody, you're laughing, you're having a good time. It's easy to skip over something that you really, really want to get into the session. So choosing your style, soft or sexy, choosing your location, and choosing whether you like to shoot soft room sets or professional studio lighting with backgrounds, whatever. You made all those choices. We assume that you shot the deal. Now you've got to make some money at all of this. Usually in our market, our booking fee, our sitting fee is pretty much just enough to cover the cost of the session. Because I have a female assistant with me for the session, she's got to get paid, so she gets paid. We do charge for the makeup, so the makeup artist gets paid directly from the client. So the hair and makeup isn't part of our expenses. But I'm basically shooting the session pretty much for free. and doing all of the retouching pretty much for free. And I've got to hope that I do a great job and people are really motivated to buy some pictures, and usually they are. My question is, we want them to buy a lot of pictures, because you know what? You can't live on $50 sales or $200 sales or $300 sales. You need to have some serious sales going on, because boudoir photography, even in larger markets, isn't probably going to be enough to sustain a photographer full time. If you want to be a boudoir photographer, great. There are exceptions to the rules, but you're probably going to wind up doing this as one of your product lines. I used to do weddings extensively, thousands of weddings. I did them for decades. I don't like doing them anymore. I kind of say that I'm out of that. I paid my dues. I've done it. And then what do I do this year? I turn around and accept a wedding. Anyways, so my point here is really about making money. We have to make a good amount of money, and we have to sell. And as my ex-wife used to say, you got to get sales the way sales get got. And no truer words can be, you have to become a salesman. And if you're shy about it, learn how to do it, get over it. And it is quite likely that if you do have somebody who can do the selling for you, that might be a good idea, because many photographers are absolutely their own worst enemy. And there's a variety of philosophical reasons why this is true, but just accept the fact that a sales associate might be the best individual for ramping up your sales, even if you got to pay them a commission. Other things that I see that I know are deal killers, and I know people like to put images online and try and sell online, and there are lots of companies that say this is the way to do it, and I've been down that road, I've been there, bought the t-shirt, blah, blah, blah. It is the wrong thing to do if you want to make some serious sales. Serious sales happen in person. They happen in presentation rooms. They happen usually with projection or large screen effects with samples all around them, and an environment that encourages the customer to buy. I've heard of some studios, and I'm trying to remember their name. Doesn't matter, I can't think of their name right now. They used to have like a small toaster oven in their studio, and just before a sales session, they'd cook up a few chocolate chip cookies that they could offer the customer. And when cookies or bread or anything like that is baking, nothing is more mouth-watering. I know other people who have sprayed their studio with cinnamon, because cinnamon is supposed to be one of those scents that put people into a warm, happy place where they might be more tempted to spend money. Anyways, whether you do that or not, my whole point is you got to get sales the way sales get done, and that happens in the studio. You got to get the people back in. It's more work for you, and it might be a slight inconvenience for your customer, but I've never had a customer have a problem with it, except if they've come from out of town. That's about the only time I'll agree to do online proofing, and there's a special way that I do that. I prepare an Animoto slideshow. Almost everything now, and when I say I'm talking about images or proofing or anything like that, it's all done by Animoto. If you're not familiar with Animoto, go to Animoto, that's ANIMOTO.com. They have, I think, a trial account. It's the best thing since sliced bread, absolutely. So they come into the studio. The first thing they see is the Animoto slideshow, and then they see, we go over the images slower one by one. I don't use projection. I use a large screen TV. And sorry, the studio cat wants to join us here because I think his food dish is empty. Excuse me. I may have a slide. I don't. Different presentation. I thought I had a slide showing our sales room. But if you want your sales to go up, here's how we do it. We try and get the customer back in the studio within 7 days, no more than 7 days, because there is kind of that period. You don't want them to lose that enthusiasm that they had when they first leave the studio. And I show them nothing, by the way. I don't show them the back of my camera. I don't do anything. In fact, I tease them about it. I'll look at the back of the camera and they'll catch me looking, and I'll say something like, I'm not going to show you. And I don't. And some of them, we make a big joke and we laugh about that. And some of them said, no, it's okay. I want to see, I want the surprise. So that's why I don't put them on Facebook. Nothing happens until they come in for their viewing appointment. And then they're going to see the fully retouched images. So here's kind of the retouched images for show. So here's the image on the left, raw out of camera. That's how I presented it to the customer on the right. I do some black and whites, I do toning, I do effects, I do the standard retouching, skin, blemishes, whatever. But when they come in, they're going to see approximately 30 fully retouched images, not the raw stuff. I never want to go to a customer and say, well, imagine how great this will look if I add a sepia tone to it. Well, they're not going to imagine that. So we do it, we show them. And yeah, it's speculation. You're going to spend some time in retouching, sometimes a lot of time in retouching, and there's no guarantee the customer's going to buy. But the better job you do in preparing images, the more likely they're going to buy, and the more they're going to buy. So again, same sort of thing. There's the raw image, there's the finished image. So noise or distractions. We don't have any. They do at home. If they do an online proofing, they got kids yelling in the background and people visiting and phones ringing. We set up an environment for them. And with that, if they have kids, we tell them, it's better without. Sometimes you wind up with them anyways, but we try and create a noise and distraction-free environment, a pleasant aroma, although we don't make cookies. The reason we don't cook cookies is because I would eat them. So that's why we don't do cookies, but we want a pleasant aroma, we want comfortable sitting, we want the right temperature, we want everything to put them in the right mood. So the Animoto slideshow that I talked about is the first thing that they see, and then yeah, forget that bullet point about the Ditto Cam from last year. That was where we were going to show Animoto. We don't have that set up yet this year. So showing the images, the bigger, the better. Absolutely. Large screen TV is what we use. The one we're using right now is 46-inch. If you've got a bigger one, even better. I wouldn't really want to go much smaller than 46. And it's relatively close. It's within 5 feet of where the customer is sitting. So we do the slideshow, we review the images one by one, we bring them up on screen, and then we do several passes. They start picking their images, and what is happening is they're having a tough time. So what we want to do is not push them too far and culling them down. Because ultimately what I'd like to do is sell an album. And our albums, we like to have at least 20 images in them. So if they keep culling it down and get it down to 8 or 9 images, you're going to have a tough time making an album sell. So albums, we do kind of 3 or 4 different ones. 7x7 soft cover on the left. That is perhaps our most popular album, period. 13x11 hardcover, so it's a bigger album, but the slide is smaller on the right-hand side. It's a hardcover, also very popular, a couple of $100 more expensive. I don't have every album we do in here. That wasn't the point. I have a couple of albums from, wait, here's one. This slide has one. Boudoiralbums.com. If you check out their site, boudoiralbums.com, phenomenal. Awesome selection, awesome albums. So if they want something a little higher end, these albums we're going to sell in the $999 price range. And we'll throw in some other things, but you get the idea. This is the more premium album. So the other thing that has become popular, and you've probably seen reference to it on the net, is reveal walls. Reveal walls, the way we do them is we really create a scene out of it. We lay out all the pictures, usually 30. They're 8 by 10. They're printed 8 by 10, and they're put into 11 by 14 archival mats, laid out so they see them all at the same time. When they enter the studio for their viewing apartment, it's hidden. They can't see it. They walk into the room and bang, there's the wall, and it's all beautiful and well lit and everything else. And we make a deal out of it. I went out and bought white cotton gloves, the kind that are used by photo retouchers and in the old days of film from handling negatives. You can still buy them. I buy them a dozen at a time at B&H Photo. And they're cheap. But we give them a pair of white cotton gloves before they touch their pictures. We want to reinforce the idea that, yeah, these are real things. This isn't a proof. This is the product you're going to walk home with, so we want to keep it pristine. So immediate gratification, because they're already printed, you're good to go. They can buy them and walk home with them under their arm. So that was just a sample of one of our early reveal walls. I blurred out, there are not blurry pictures, I blurred out her face for this slide. So we sell them individually. They can just buy 1 or 2 or 3 if they want. They can buy, we have boxes for them. There's a box of 10 or a box of 20. Obviously, that's what we're trying to sell. And it's a nice sale. Now, the danger is, and we had this happen, we did up, because we got to do all the retouching, we got to do all the printing, the mounting, we have to have the mats. I don't guarantee you're going to sell anything. So if I print out 38 by 10s, there's a good chance that I'm going to just eat the cost of 38 by 10s, and that's life. But not very likely if you've done a good job of pre-qualifying the customer. I'm going to get into that in a little bit too. So these are the mat cases, the mats that I buy from my lab. It comes as an archival mat, and you can see on the image on the left how there's some plastic sleeves, protector sleeves for each of the mats. That's how they get them originally. And those are the cases on the right-hand side. They're beautiful leather, magnetic closing, and very nice presentation and storage for long-term storage. Individual prints, when I get them, they come nicely packaged too. They don't ever just get a brown manila envelope full of pictures. And then usually we, on almost every product, except for gallery wraps, obviously, we package them. We put them in boxes. We put them in colorful bags with colorful tissue paper stuffed into them. And they love them. So, they've just spent $1,000 on pictures. They shouldn't be walking out of your studio with an envelope in their hand. We want to make them feel like they got something substantial. Now, that happens automatically when you sell a gallery wrap. But, if it's an album or individual prints, this is a really nice presentation for it. So do something with your packaging. I know a lot of photographers used to just take the lazy road, but the only way, you're not going to get away with the lazy road anymore. That worked in the past. Those days are gone. Today, remember, we got to exceed expectations. We got to be the boutique studio. So I wanted to talk a little bit about pricing, and I mentioned a few minutes ago about pre-qualifying a customer. So when somebody books, we immediately send them this investment guide. And we don't say that we're sending them an investment guide, we just say we're sending them a guide, and you'll see why in a couple of seconds. But two things happen with this. Number one, it's got a bunch of information on getting ready for their session. Number two, it's got the prices of products. So if they're not okay with the prices, this is the point that they should bail out, not when they're in the studio or in the sales room. They're going to see the prices, they're going to understand what it's all about, and they're going to either be prepared or not. That's why I say pre-qualifying. So let's take a look at some of these pages in this booklet. The first page is a thank you, just thank you for choosing us. Are you feeling a bit shy and nervous? Well, we kind of address their reservations. So right off the bat, we're trying to ease them into it because almost everybody tells me that they're nervous heading into their session. And so we want to address that and all of their other concerns as well. So as we go through the booklet, some advice on selecting their wardrobe, how to assess their strengths and weaknesses and how wardrobe can help with that. If they're particularly concerned about stretch marks on their belly, why a corset or a bustier might be a great answer for something like that. So we get into that kind of information over the course of several pages, along with some pictures to stimulate some thinking. Hair and makeup, as I mentioned, is not part of our basic package. They have to buy that, and then they have to pay the makeup artist directly. I don't want to get into collecting the money and then doling it out and accounting for all of that with taxation and everything. So that way the customer feels, well, he's not taking a markup on hair and makeup. So nudity comes up, and they're not sure, even if though they may say that they wouldn't do it. What they're really thinking is, I wonder if I should be topless or whatever. So let's address it. Let's just bring it out. Some are okay with it. Surprising numbers of them are okay with topless, and some aren't. If they're not, that's fine. You don't push it. We go exactly to their degree of comfort level. So things to do the day of, how to, don't wear any tight-fitting clothing or undergarments the day of the shoot. So all this information on making them feel comfortable of getting ready. The other thing that they're going to worry about is, who's going to pose me? I don't know how to pose. I don't know what to do once I get there. Well, we tell them. We look after that. That's our job. We know how to pose you. So it's all about getting them comfortable and setting the stage for a great session. So we say, okay, let's get started. First, let's pick a photo session that suits your style. And then we show them what we have. We have 3 basic sessions. The first one, the basic one, we call Sizzle-licious. We're going with this our company is called Sizzle Photography. So we work that word in as often as we can. But that's our base session. Then we go up to the subtle sizzle session, a little bit more expensive, a little bit more comprehensive. And the sexy sizzle, more comprehensive again, and it gets into some of these specialty shoots like the paint, the body paint, or remember a few slides ago, there was that plexiglass window all wet like a shower. So those are our specialty sets. They got to book a sexy sizzle package for us to get those out because they're a lot of work to set up and clean up. And then we make a point. Selecting your shoot is one thing, but now you got to pick what you want. Prints, images, albums, gallery wraps for the wall, whatever. They got to figure out in advance kind of what they want. So we're going to go over all the different things that we offer. So we have collections of prints, the simple collection, 8 5x7 prints, and 2 social media files. They don't get a CD of images at all, and I'm going to go over that in a little bit. And social media, we do social media. They're designed for the internet. They're not full res printable. They're printable to a certain size, but they're really optimized for the net. And then the Sassy collection, it's 14 5x7s instead of 8. And then the Sexy collections is a 20-page soft cover album called the Sexy Book. And with that, they not only get 20 images, they get 20 social media files. Notice they're not getting high resolution files, they're getting social media files. Then the Supermodel collection, that's where we get into the boudoiralbum.com, custom design 10x10 couture album. Now, that's one of their designs. It doesn't have to be red and white. If you go to boudoiralbum.com, they're not a sponsor. They're just a good boudoir album company. So with this, they can have up to 25 pages or 30 images, which is, in other words, every image we prepared for them in this album. And, excuse me, they get their slideshow that we showed them, the Animoto slideshow, and they get all digital files. It's $1,580 for this kit, but and then we say it's the only way to get all of your digital images files on a disk. So those people who call up, and believe me, we get it all the time, call up and say, okay, how much just for a disk, a CD of images? No, we don't do that. A whole disk of images, $1,580, and we'll give you the album. The Ultimats, these were the reveal wall things. We call them Ultimats, and they can buy a set of 4, a set of 7, a set of 10, a set of 20. And then add-ons, individual prints, social media files. Now notice how we word this. Social media files from ordered poses, $25. In other words, if they bought it as a print, they can order it as a social media file for $25 more. If they haven't bought it as a print, they're going to pay $45 for a social media file. Remember, that's the non-printable, that's the lower resolution. And we get into actual prints, and then we get into high-res images for printing. And we assume they're printing at least 8x10, so we base this on 8x10 at 300 dpi. $149. And they say, is that for the CD? No, ma'am. That's each. And then they scream, and you have a conversation about why they want digital images of their boudoir anyways. And then they start to think about it and realize, yeah, it's not like I'm going to put them on Facebook and send them to grandma. But you suddenly realize that what the heck do they need the digital files for? So we make a big deal, as a lot of studios do. We produce artwork. We produce mostly, the prints and the albums are the number one, but also gallery wraps. We do sell gallery wraps. You wouldn't think we'd sell big ones. I took an order not long ago for a 36 by 48 gallery wrap of a totally nude image, but that's what you wanted. I was totally okay with that. So that's the 7x7 softcover book, the Sexy albums, the 13x11, the couture album, and a new album we're just introducing. This is also from boudoiralbum.com, the Sexy book. It's, it's not a soft cover. It's kind of a firm cover. The pages are beautifully thick, not like a magazine. These other albums, the previous albums, are like magazine stock. These are much heavier duty. Then we do another thing that we're really pushing. It's expensive, and they really gotta want it. But we'll take an image from their session, and I usually decide. I don't let them decide. I decide which image I want, and we get it painted. I can do some of that myself, but honestly, I'm not the pro. I actually job it out. And I base it To the artist I give it to, I tell him we're doing a 24 by 36. That's the only size we're going to do. And he likes to do TIFF files, so I get a 24 by 36-inch TIFF file of this beautifully painted portrait. And then we can put it in a frame and we sell that. We print it, by the way, on special paper. It's printed on what's called a premium cold press paper. It's beautiful. It's hard to describe. You got to go get a sample of it from somewhere. But these are cold pressed images that are put into a frame with no glass. Excuse me. Absolutely stunning to look at. And it's expensive. Just that is $1,149. And if you think about it, that's not really, it should probably be a lot more than that, because it's a large piece, 24 by 36 inches. It cost me, in spite of what it cost me for taking the picture, just my out-of-pocket expenses, usually around $230 to the artist that paints it. The printing of the on cold art paper is going to be about $100. The frame, depending on what you go with, at the low end, probably $50-$60 and higher. I only put very simple frames. I don't go for elaborate ones. So, there's a reasonable expense and there's a reasonable profit to it too. But I hang one of these in the studio because they've got to see it. They got to see this. They got to touch it with their fingers to get the texture of the paper. It really is something special. This one was taken to an art show. Actually, the picture that's in this right now, a little side story, was taken to an art show in Atlanta, being shown by the artist who took my image and did up the brushstrokes on it. He just wanted to see what people's reactions were. He was there selling his own art. He wasn't trying to sell this because it's my image. But he wanted people's reactions, and he said he got really good reaction. There were people there that were prepared to buy this image. They don't even know who the girl is. It's just that they want it as artwork for their home. And that's the way we have to present it to our boudoir customers. This is not a 24 by 36 inch print. This is a 24 by 36 inch work of art. Then we wrap up with some frequently asked questions. And that's the end of our book. So they get this book right at the point where they book the session. It's a PDF file. We send it out to them by email or attached to a text message or something. Excuse me, and they get to look it over. And that's what I said helps weed out the ones that aren't. I don't hold this back. I give it to anybody who asks, even if they haven't booked a session, because I don't want to get into all of that work and do a session which is pretty much free for me. I'm not earning any money out of the session, and I'm going to put all sorts of time into the retouching of 30 images if they're not going to buy. So I'm going to screen those people out as best as I can. So talking to them, giving them this document, that all contributes to that sort of a thing. So we've talked about the pricing, the packaging, and selecting the style, and that wraps up our three-part series. We didn't get into posing because, as I mentioned before, and if you're just joining us late, the posing we're covering off more in the live shoots from the studio. Part 1, which has already happened, Part 2 and 3 that are coming up on the dates that I showed you. If you want to access recordings, go to pshtalk.com. That'll take you to a page with all of the recordings. It's for bronze members and up at Photography Schoolhouse. And remember, that should be everybody because bronze memberships are free. And actually, well, they're not going to be free forever, but they're free right now. We just introduced the bronze membership. So you can go to Photography Schoolhouse I think I have, I'll just show you that again real quick. With any luck, there we go. So go to photographyschoolhouse.com. This is the home page coming up in a second. Go to memberships, bronze membership. You'll see all the details about it. And down at the bottom, there's a link to join for free. So everybody should be a bronze member. It doesn't cost you a thing. And then you get access to all sorts of cool things. Not as much as the gold member. I mean, obviously, we would really like you to be a gold member. But that's going to cost you some money. And I'm not here to sell memberships right now. I'm here to talk about boudoir photography. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll hang around for a little bit. If you're on the pshlive.com page, if you're viewing this from the Photography Schoolhouse website, you see that there was a chat window there. So if you have a question, type it in the chat window, and I'll be happy to answer it. If not, then I hope that I'll see you next Tuesday night. And if you're watching the recording, all these dates will be meaningless. But right now, tonight, as of recording this, it's next Tuesday, which is the January the, let me get the calendar, January 24th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to pshlive.com to see that. And with that, we're going to call it good. Hope everybody enjoyed this. Hope you're having some success with your boudoir business. And have a good night, everyone.